From America's farm to Fort Capital and some of the richest farmland in the world, it's time for What's in Season with Michael Marks.
Well, welcome to What's in Season with Michael Marks. I am Michael Marks, your produce man. What an exciting show we have for you today. When you think of September, you probably think of back to school. We are going to talk a little bit about back to school. But when you go down the produce aisle, you go out to your garden, you go to the farmer's market, you go to the produce market, tomatoes. It's all about tomatoes. It's one of the biggest months for homegrown tomatoes. So we're going to talk tomatoes. Plus, Mandy Bottoms is with us from Ag in the Classroom, and we're going to have a ladybug sandwich with tomatoes. Oh my goodness, that's going to be very exciting. Dr. Chelsea Zarkon is with us today. It is Alzheimer's Awareness Month in September, so we're going to talk about nutrition and Alzheimer's. And of course, Chef Adam Peckel will be with us today. One hot recipe and one cold recipe using what else? Tomatoes. Well, let's start tomatoes. When I first started in the produce industry, oh my goodness, more than 45 years ago, this was tomato section for me right here. These two, we had what we called gas green tomatoes and we had cherry tomatoes, and that was it. And then in the 1980s, we started getting something called a Roma tomato. Oh my goodness, and that was it. Now, check out the tomato section now today. Oh my goodness, look at all the tomatoes that you find in the produce section or at the farmer's market. It is unbelievable. It all started after the Roma tomato, with BC Hot House started creating these what they call on-the-vine tomatoes. And that just created a craze. People wanted more with tomatoes. And then we started getting these grape tomatoes and all of these different colored tomatoes. And then we started getting all of these weird tomatoes. And then, of course, we had all of the beautiful heirloom tomatoes. Oh my goodness, the heirloom tomatoes. So let's get this out of the way right away. Is the tomato a fruit or is it a vegetable? Well, back in 1883, we had a president, President Arthur Chester. He signed into act the Tariff Act, and that Tariff Act taxed all imported vegetables, but not fruit. So there was a guy by the name of John Nix. You have no idea who he is, but he had one of the biggest produce markets in New York at the time. And he imported a lot of tomatoes from Cuba and Costa Rica and Ecuador, and he imported all those tomatoes. He didn't realize he had to pay tax on them. Well, when the tax man came around, he filed a lawsuit in 1893 saying these are fruit, not a vegetable. Well, it went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in 1893, and the Supreme Court admitted that botanically speaking, the tomato is indeed a fruit. My definition of a fruit, all fruits have seeds and ripen. Does a tomato have seeds? Yes. Do they ripen? Yes. So that's my definition of a fruit. Botanically speaking, they are indeed a fruit. However, the U.S. Supreme Court, in their wisdom, they said that because we use tomatoes in soups, salads, and sandwiches, we're now going to call them a vegetable. So they used the culinary aspect of the tomato. We don't use them in desserts normally. So that's why it's now considered a vegetable. So how do you store a tomato? This is muy importante. Where do you store your tomatoes? Do you store your tomatoes over in that refrigerator? That is tomato abuse. Please, never in a million years should you put your tomatoes in the refrigerator. Let me give you a secret. The tomato is a subtropical fruit. That's right, a subtropical fruit, just like the banana. Now, do you put your bananas in the refrigerator? No, you don't. You put your bananas out on the countertop to ripen. So how do you store the tomatoes? Keep them out on your countertop, out of direct sunlight. And I also try to keep mine covered with a nice clean kitchen cloth. Keep them covered. That way they don't dehydrate as much. Second thing about tomatoes, how in the world do you cut a tomato? Well, let me show you something. You should always use a serrated edge knife. Now, when was the last time that you sharpened your knives? Yes, probably when you got married and you got that new set of knives, and that was the last time they were sharp. They're probably not sharp anymore. So you use a serrated edge knife on your tomatoes, and that way they cut so nice. Of course, if you do have a super sharp knife, that can be used as well, but a serrated edge knife is really, really good on tomatoes. Now, the tomatoes originated in South America, in Peru, Galapagos Islands, in Chile, in Ecuador, and when the conquistadors went to South America, they took back gold. And one of the gold items they took back with them was, of course, the tomato. It was usually a gold-colored tomato. Now, sometime in Spain or Italy, over the next 100 years, that's when the tomato turned red. Oh my goodness, and now we have all of these beautiful tomatoes, absolutely gorgeous tomatoes. One final thing, when you slice your tomatoes, you slice them just before you use them. There is a chemical in a tomato called Z9. Z9 dissipates within 15 minutes. So just before you put the tomato on the burger, just before you put the tomato in your salad, that's when you slice them. Hey, don't go away. We have so much more coming up just for you. Well, you say tomato, I say Kumado. That's right. Have you seen these Kumado tomatoes? What in the world is this? Well, let me cut these open and pull them out. Look at those. Oh my goodness. They are fantastic. Take a look at those. Really dark brown color. Wait till I cut one open. This actually started in the 1970s. There was a farmer in Adra, Spain, and he noticed at the edges of his tomato field, the tomatoes were darker than all of the other tomatoes. They were more stressed. They had less water around the edges of the field. So very, very cool. He took those, and in the 1980s, Syngenta Seed Company got a hold of some of those seeds and then crossed those with some seeds from wild tomatoes out of the Galapagos. And it took them about 8 years, and they developed this. SX387 is the variety name. That's not a very good name, is it? So that's why they gave it the name Kumado. Take a look at that inside. Oh my goodness. You want an intense tomato flavor? You want sweetness in a tomato? It's called a Kumado, and you too will fall in love with these. A BLT never tasted so good. Hey, you know, kids are getting back to school. So I wanted to chat just a little bit with moms and dads and grandparents. When you're taking your kids back to school, I want you to get back to the 3 R's. The kids are getting back to the 3 R's, writing, arithmetic, and reading. Well, you need to get back to the 3 R's as well, especially when it comes to lunches for your kids. In your lunch boxes, I saw a commercial not long ago. It made me furious. All these parents were putting all of these ultra-processed foods into their kids' lunches, all these packaged items. You couldn't even read the ingredients on them. And if you can't read the ingredients, why do you think they're good for your kids? So please, will you do me a favor? Remember the 3 R's. First of all, role model for your kids. Role model is muy importante. If you're picking up a candy bar, the kids are going to pick up a candy bar. Next one, reduce sugar content. Sugar is not good for your kids' brain. It's not good for them at school. Number 3, remember your fruits and vegetables. So in your lunchbox, I want you to put some healthy snacks. Some dried fruit is really good. I love dates. I love raisins. Of course, put some nuts in there. If you put any fruit in there, please cut the fruit up. You want your kids to eat the fruit, especially your little kindergartners and first graders. You want the kids to eat the fruit, right? So cut it up. Make it easy for them to eat. Put all of these natural items into your kids' lunches. And finally, please, put a love note in your kids' lunch, especially dads. Dads, misspell a word or two, dads. That way the kids will know it's from dad. Hey, coming up, Mandy Bottoms is with us. We're doing something with tomatoes just for kids. Don't go away. All right, well, I have my lunchbox because I'm going to school. I'm going to school with Ag in the classroom. Mandy Bottoms is with us. Thank you so much for being here. I love when we do a segment just for kids, to get kids excited about fruits and vegetables. So what do you have today with tomatoes?
This is a great back to school snack, or even can go in that lunchbox, and it helps kids have fun with their food, which is always a goal of ours.
Play with your food. My mom used to say, don't play with your food, but we're saying it's okay.
Research shows playing with your food is very good for kids now. So we have, we're going to make a ladybug sandwich. So you just start with a piece of lightly toasted whole wheat bread so they can get those nutrients. A piece of sliced cheese as the base.
What kind of cheese can I use?
My kids love mild cheddar.
Okay.
But you can use whatever kind of cheese your kids like. You're actually going to cover it up with a piece of lettuce. So it doesn't totally matter. It's just for the nutritional value. So they're
little leaf lettuce, green leaf or romaine on there.
Yep, a little piece of leaf lettuce. Now it's time to make the ladybug wings. So we're going to slice the tomato. And ladybugs, another point you can make while you're doing this with your kids is that ladybugs actually have an important role in the garden and in growing things.
Yes.
So some kids don't know that. If you have pests like aphids or spider mites, ladybugs are their predator. So it's a great way to help control insect populations in your garden as well.
Ladybug is so cute. I don't see it quite as a predator.
Yeah, it might surprise you. Yeah, you can get them at garden centers. So you'll take your tomato slice, once you have that, just cut it in half. These are going to be the ladybug wings. So
cute.
We'll put it right on top, kind of in a wing fashion.
Okay.
And then let's see. Okay, we have our olives. You can have your children add those as the ladybug's spots.
They're little black spots on
little
their
black spots.
wings.
So cute. And then just a cherry tomato, or plum tomato in this case, or whatever you want to call it. That's going to be the head. So we'll put that right on the top. And then we're missing one thing, and that are
eyes. We need eyes.
So I'm trying to dry my hands. These are they're actually candy eyes, just a tiny little bit of candy. You're going to dip it in your cream cheese, and you're going to stick it right on there for the ladybug's eyes. And there you have it. You have a ladybug sandwich.
My goodness.
So it makes it fun for the kids to eat it.
Now, if I want to put that in my lunchbox, just slap another bread on there.
Do that and say there's a surprise inside.
There's a surprise in your sandwich today.
Yeah. I also want to share with any teachers or parents out there, there's a project that NASA does called the Tomato Sphere. Have you heard about this?
Tell me about it.
They actually send tomato seeds into space, and then they bring the tomato seeds back, and then they distribute them to classrooms all over the United States. So I think there's like 20,000 classrooms that participate in it. And then it's citizen science. The kids raise these tomato plants, report on how they grow, and NASA collects all that data. So it's a fun way to connect your students with science, math, growing things.
And astronauts.
And
And space.
Who doesn't love that? So,
yeah, that's right. Oh, how cool is that?
It is very fun.
And then they plant the seeds and
plant the seeds and grow and take all the data from how they're growing. So there's lots of connections, ways that you can help your students learn about agriculture, science, while also helping them eat healthy.
Where can we learn more about Ag in the Classroom?
Yeah, Ag in the Classroom is a nonprofit. Our job is to help it make teaching agriculture very easy for teachers and parents. We are at learnaboutag.org, and we have so many teacher resources. You can go there, get information, get activities, everything's hands-on, so make sure you check it out.
One of the things kids probably don't know, that pizza that they have, that spaghetti, 99.9% of all the processed tomatoes for the United States are grown right here in California. So whether you're in New York getting a tomato sauce, it's grown here in California.
And ketchup too.
And ketchup, that's right. And salsa.
A kid favorite is ketchup, yes.
All right. Yeah. Well, don't go away. The doctor's in the house. We're talking about Alzheimer's disease. Coming right up. Don't go away. September is World Alzheimer's Month. Now, my father, Jim Marks, he died of Alzheimer's disease. It's become so prevalent today. 5.8 million Americans in 2020 had Alzheimer's disease. They're saying by the year 2060, that's going to almost triple the number of people. Alzheimer's disease is not normal part of aging. It is not normal. So we brought Dr. Chelsea Azark on with us today to talk about Alzheimer's disease. Our brain has 100 billion cells in it. Mm-hmm. And when those cells go a little haywire, something happens.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it's definitely a growing problem. In the past roughly 20 years, the number of deaths from Alzheimer's disease has increased by 140%.
Wow.
Which is really staggering. But then we also have 11 million people who are providing unpaid care to family and friends with Alzheimer's disease, and that has a lot of physical and emotional health impacts, we know from the data. And so I think there's a lot of people who are impacted by this disease.
My mom certainly took care of my dad for several years.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. There's so many studies coming out that a healthy lifestyle habit can help prevent Alzheimer's. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so most cases of Alzheimer's disease are what we call spontaneous, meaning that it's not from inherited gene defects, it's actually from modifiable risk factors. So things like obesity, sedentary lifestyle, other modifiable disease conditions like cardiovascular disease, and diet. So much so that Alzheimer's disease has been called by some researchers diabetes of the brain, because a lot of the triggers that lead to diabetes can also trigger Alzheimer's disease.
So all the sugar we've been eating, all the processed food we've been eating for the past 40, 50 years is contributing to this.
Absolutely.
So what can we eat? What kind of a diet would really help us?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about some of my favorite foods for the brain. I also love doing this in September because we've got Alzheimer's awareness and we've got kids going back to school. So no matter what your age, you can benefit from adding in these foods. So let's start with tomatoes, since those are the star of the show today. So tomatoes, we have talked about before as having antioxidants.
Lycopene.
Yes, the star antioxidant in tomatoes. And lycopene can help protect your brain from inflammation and damage. But if you look at patients with Alzheimer's disease and dementias, they actually have lower levels of circulating lycopene in their blood, and that's believed to increase the risk of death from dementias.
Okay, so get out our salsa and our spaghetti sauce, right?
Yes.
And fresh tomatoes on the sandwich.
And fresh tomatoes. We also have another fruit that has a pigment. Lycopene's a pigment in tomatoes, and this pigment is an antioxidant that helps with cognitive function, and that's blueberries.
Anthocyanin.
Anthocyanin, that's right. So research shows that just 1 cup of wild blueberries a day can help with cognitive function, because what that anthocyanin does is it increases blood flow to the brain, and the increased blood flow helps with better executive function, better focus, better memory. So if you want to kind of help erase some of those senior moments, why did I come into this room? Or you just feel like
Where
you're
are
not,
my keys?
Yes, not as sharp at your job as you used to be. Blueberries a cup a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have some flaxseed?
I do have some flax meal here. So flax meal is a great representation of omega-3s, which are super key to brain health. Flax seeds contain an omega-3 fat called alpha-linolenic acid, which you don't need to know how to say. You just need to know what it does. So we have something called the blood-brain barrier, which is like a fortress for our brain. It protects the brain from things that would damage it. And in Alzheimer's disease, that starts to break down. So flax seeds can help protect from that, but they also do something really cool. They help us build new nerves. That's something called neuroplasticity, which is key for preventing dementias. And they do that by increasing something called BDNF, which is like fertilizer for your brain. So the takeaway is flax seeds are like fertilizer for your brain.
And then finally, you have some walnuts. Walnut in a shell looks like the brain.
Yes.
Walnuts are really good for your brain.
So we know it's good for your brain. So studies looking at walnuts show that adding them to your diet can help reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease and reduce the risk of progression from mild dementias. And then in lab studies, walnut extract helps prevent the formation of these proteins that cause brain cell death in Alzheimer's. So so fun.
So get up and walk, start exercising, and include a lot of, and of course olive oil, avocado oil, very good. Salmon is good for it, right?
Lots of healthy fats and those that help regenerate brain tissue.
Okay, got 100 billion brain cells out there. Here's an 800 number for you, 800-272-3900. That's from the Alzheimer's Association. If you or a family member need help, please, 24/7, that number is available. Thank you, Dr. Chelsea, for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't go away, Chef Adam Peckles in the house. Well, thanks for staying with us. Oh, what an exciting show we've had for you today. And it's not over. I see a whole bunch of basil, a bouquet of basil. That must mean we're going to be cooking with some tomatoes. Chef Adam
That's
Peckel is
right.
with us today. There's so many things you can do with tomatoes.
There's so many things. Well, and there's so many different kinds of tomatoes. I think every year there's like a new heirloom variety that I've never even heard of. I don't even know what half of these are, but it doesn't matter. You go for look and flavor.
Pineapple tomato, purple Cherokee tomato,
Yep.
early girls, all the
Green
beefsteaks,
green zebras.
Yeah, all of them.
Mini Charms. Mini Charms is a new cherry tomato I'd never heard of, and
Okay.
they are delicious.
So what are we doing with tomatoes here?
Well, speaking of the mini charms, we want to do two things. We want to do a hot dish and a cold dish. So we're going
Okay.
to start with our hot dish and making the most simple pasta sauce on the planet. We're just taking a bunch of these just really delicious cherry tomatoes. I've got a few cloves of smashed garlic on there, some olive oil, salt and pepper, and then we're just going to pop them in under the broiler and just let those just blister up a little bit.
That's
And
all it needs,
That's
just
it.
a little
just
blistering.
a little blistering. We're just going to kind of just get the sweetness to come out, the juices to come out a little bit, and that's going to make our sauce.
Okay.
And while we're waiting for those, I'm just going to make a little simple tomato salad, which what I like to do, again, these heirlooms need so very little, but what I like to do is we'll take a little of the tomatoes, and I love sherry vinegar to marinate my tomatoes, and just a little bit,
okay.
because the tomatoes are just so inherently sweet. You want a little of that acidity to kind of balance
That's
out
right.
the flavor. Of course, any kind of just some good, nice olive oil, a little bit of salt.
What kind of salt are we going to use?
So I'm using a little nice flaky Maldon salt. It's a little bit bigger, but you get a little of the little pop on the tongue, and we like to use those for tomatoes. So I'll just get like a quick little marinade. And everybody knows sort of the caprese salad, the fresh mozzarella, which is great, and everybody does it, but I like different stuff. There's different cheeses you can use, farmer's cheese. We're just going with a nice soft whipped goat cheese.
Okay.
Again, goat cheese is one of my favorites. It's not for everybody, but I love it. My daughter loves it, so this is one we always have in the house. And then I like to complement the tomatoes with another vegetable, which, of course, cucumbers are going great right now. You see here the serpentine cucumbers, which are a nice, fun one that you can find maybe at the farmer's market. We'll mix those in there. And I mean, it's just that easy.
And get your hands in there, too. Don't be afraid to get your hands in there.
I like to touch my food. We wash our hands a lot. We touch our food. And again, you just sort of just pile it on the nice fresh cheese like that.
Official culinary term, pile it on.
A little bit of that, and let's see, a wipey, and then of course this good fresh basil.
Oh.
I've got two kinds. I've got Thai basil, which is often used in Asian dishes, but I really like it for some of these salads. It's just got a little bit different. You've got the sweet basil, which really, to me, has that sweet flavor. But this
Thai basil is my favorite.
It really is, and it's got the nice purple flowers. And we just get a little of that on there.
Put the purple flower on there too?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Purple flower has a ton of flavor in
A
it.
ton of flavor, so
Yes.
go easy. Don't put a ton of the flowers on there, but it's a nice little beautiful garnish.
Oh, my
Now
goodness.
I bet our cherry tomatoes are ready.
Okay.
By the magic of television, we've got this nice blistered tomatoes here.
And we've already cooked the pasta.
And the juices have come out, the oils come out, the garlic is browned, and you can smell that flavor. Why don't you pick some of that basil for us?
Oh, my
Maybe
goodness.
the sweet basil for this one.
Yes.
And there we go. And again, I just like to tear it. I rarely cut basil with a knife for things like this. We just tear it up a little bit. It helps kind of release those oils and get a little more of that flavor out there. And again, this is just such an easy thing. Boil pasta. Pop the tomatoes in the oven.
Can I have some
Boom.
Parmesan cheese
Little
with that?
Parmesan cheese right on top, and
Where's
you are
the
good to
bread?
go. I think there's some bread around here somewhere, right?
Oh my goodness, two fantastic dishes. That is unbelievable. A cold dish, hot dish, so many great things you can do with tomatoes. Chef Adam Peckel, once again, you hit it out of the ballpark. That
Tomatoes
was
make
fantastic.
it easy. Tomatoes make it easy. They do it themselves.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us in What's in Season with Michael Marks. We'll be back next month. We'll see you then.